to all our viewers today. Continuing with a series of talks with eminent speakers on board on a very own E4G talk show. Being the brand ambassador and the anchor of this wonderful power-packed global talk show series, hosted with a vision and mission to showcase the inspiring stories and interesting discussions on varied topics to assure great experience for the viewers. And as promised to our viewers, we are present with yet another interesting topic and discussion. Well, every beauty queen doesn't wear a crown. Some wear caps and serve as heroes. That's what I want to talk about our guest today. We are presently rubaru with our guest, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Commander Rajesh Kori, retired. Well, she's an ex-naval officer and presently serving as Deputy Controller of Civil Defense in Government of Maharashtra, Home Department, a special ed. And welcome, Commander Kori, and it's a pleasure to have you on board.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we start, I would like to, brief the viewer about your achievements and your journey. She has completed about 25 years of government service, and Mrs. Kori is a recipient of Yashaswini Award given away by the Ministry of Defense by the hands of Defense Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman in April 2018 for the services to the nation. Incidentally, she is also the first Indian woman in Asian subcontinent to be posted on board a naval warship and is distinguished in the Limca Book of Records. There's so much. When I read about your bio, I felt so elated and I felt so glad. Our mission on the talk show is basically to bring such speakers who can inspire the youth and the generation. And without any doubt, I absolutely was eagerly waiting to host you today. And welcome once again, Commander Kori. So let's get going. As usual, the question to my all speaker is, how was your journey as a young lady officer to the journey that you're leading now?
I started my career from Indian Navy. My first appointment was in Mumbai. It was a base logistics unit of the Premier Western Naval Command. I got influenced by my late father. He was also in the Indian Navy as a provost naval officer. And my grandfather was in Karnataka Police Services. So the environment at home was about uniform services and such like. It was inherent that I would also go for the same. Maybe IPS, but the Navy opened its doors in 1992, and it was a novelty at that time. The women are being inducted into the Indian Navy. It's an opportunity. So what, it was for a short duration. Those days when I got my appointment, it was for 7 years. So I applied, and there was no written examination those days because the competition was not much. And it was based on your marks which you have received in your education. That is, I did my graduation in Bachelor of Commerce, and I finished it with a distinction. So, based on my marks, they called me for SSB. SSB was at Bhopal, and in the first attempt, I got selected, and my commissioning started from my training started from August 1995. And my first appointment came in 1996 after 1 year of training. When I joined the unit, there were hardly 3 or 4 women officers, and we were not even doing night duties, which we in the Navy, where they were officer of the day duties, all the male officers were doing. And whenever any delegate would come, a VIP would come, we would be doubling up as liaison officers. So it was mostly, ornamental. than what we were inducted to do so. Over a period of time, it came in my mind, are we here only for ornamental purpose? What is our role? The Navy's essence is sea service, and all women officers I see only on shore billets. So
Sure.
it started me to think that if at all a male officer wants to do some cooling off period, so how would he come to the base if all the billets are filled by women officers? So this idea, this thought process, when it came into my mind, I approached my boss and I requested him that I would like to do a sea service. At first, he was surprised, and he tried.
Adventurous to
Yeah,
hear
I mean, and he was a North Indian, total Gujarat,
that.
and he was like surprised, and he made, of course, jovially, because when you are in a unit and you are the youngest officer, you are not only pampered, but and in due process you get pulled also. So
Absolutely.
he started pulling my legs, you and sea service and all. तू तो लड़की है. I also said, आपको doubt है. So those kind of things, and and somehow it clicked them also, probably the way I approached. And at the same time, I would like to mention it here that I did go out of my brief and I had written directly to the headquarters also, not only going through the normal routine through your boss, through your commanding officer, but I had directly written to the DOP, Directorate of Personnel Branch in the Naval Headquarters, which nobody would have dared to do so as a sub-lieutenant. And somewhere the spark was there. Somewhere they felt, okay, she's a lady officer. She may not, she's new to the service. She may not be knowing the protocols, or she should be taught. But the idea was ingrained that yes, there's a person out here who wants to do sea service. So they asked me, would you like to be the guinea pig? I said, yes, why not? I'd like to give it a try. But then our ships are not women friendly because of compact
Absolutely.
spaces, because of washrooms are shared, there is no partition in the washrooms. So we had to find a way out, and also it was an opportunity for the Navy to showcase the world that since we have taken in a women officers, we're also giving them opportunity to serve on board ships. It was another big novelty factor. And they started looking, and since we are always sent in a pair of twos wherever we go, so the hunt was on for another lady officer. So if in a ship of say a complement of 150, you need one logistics officer, and other lady officer could be a medical officer, because other branches there were no women officers. So the hunt for medical officer was on, and Surgeon Commander Vinita Tomar agreed to do it because her son was in 12th standard, and she wanted to retain accommodation in Mumbai. So it worked together. It was a good match, and we joined the ship in August, and that's how our journey started. And and when I went on board the ship, one of the senior officers, I don't remember who, but he said, would you like to be a hysterical woman, or you want to be a historical woman?
Okay.
So there's a difference, in
Difference,
the way.
absolutely.
So I said, it was in my mind, like it struck my mind, what is he saying? And then the impact was there that, of course, now you are responsible, you are accountable, you are paving the way, you are creating history. So a lot of things depend on you, how you conduct yourself, how you brazen it out, how do you work it out. Because when I reported in my first unit, at that time also there was this difficulty, or rather mindset. Now women officers have come here, so how do we work under them? How do we take orders? Because majority of our men folk are from the hinterland. Now many things have changed, and over a period of time people have accepted it. But I'm talking of 1996, when I was the fourth batch of women officers in 1995. So it was still new. It was still very, very at the infancy stage, and people were looking at it, whether this thing will succeed or not. And even my senior lady officers were also cautioning us, were mentoring us how to behave, how to conduct. And most of the times, yes, there were a little bit of skirmishes that the men folk wouldn't salute, men folk wouldn't take orders from a lady, and believe me, nobody interfered.
Wonderful.
And there was no way I could go and say I'm a failure. Obviously not. So I had to figure out how to go about it, and the only way was you be the best in your work. And that is by reading out, reading the rules and regulations, be one step ahead of your men. Then only once you are good in your work, you will be able to guide them. They will not be able to catch you, or you will not be vulnerable to them. So, and within a span of 3 or 4 months, it was like I knew much better than them. I wouldn't say much better, but since the learning was there, since the confidence was there, and I was not faltering anywhere, and I could make my own pay bills and then teach them this is how the pay bills are made, it was a bonus for them. She knows everything. Apart from her training, she's teaching us, she's telling us, she's guiding us. So similar thing happened in onboard ship also. At least the ship's complement knew that 2 lady officers are coming. In other areas, wherever, whichever units I used to go, it was just as Lieutenant or Lieutenant Commander RG Kori. So most of them wouldn't know whether it's a male or a female. So when you land up, you have to know that you are a female, and then you could say, "Oh yeah, ye to lady hai. I hope she will not be a liability." See that preconceived notions were there. But within 2-3 months, you pick it up and you say, when you are leaving your PLD, you will say that, oh, we have using an asset of the organization.
Absolutely. I
So
can totally relate to that.
we women officers were like sugar in a milk cup.
Absolutely.
It was a good journey, and I still hold those values and ethos even in my civil life. It
So absolutely, Commander Corey, I can relate to it. I belong to a family who are in a Fauji fraternity. My sister-in-law is also a lady officer. So, and when my husband was commanding, there were 8 lady officers. And everybody used to say, Tera kya hoga, CO ka, and all that. But we had best of the time. And I must say, kandhe se kandha milke, the lady officer at work. And
absolutely.
what and you know what, I feel they are more professional. It might sound today that we are very women biased.
Proud of our brethren, yes.
Absolutely, they were so professional, and that is how. And it's such a it's so elating to hear that how you have taken as a, if I can say, a dabang step, कि हाँ ये मैंने करना है, and then you joined. Absolutely. So it's very interesting to know that how you started your journey as a young lady officer to the journey of continuing there. So continuing with the same thing, I wanted to know what were the important influences in your formative years.
Obviously, my father. My mother was a teacher in Kendriya Vidyalaya. So we all used to be in the same school, my sister, myself, my mother. We would go together, come back together. And mostly my mother, because father ko to hum zyada time dekhte hi nahi the ghar pe. And being a police officer, he was on one case or the other. So mother was biggest influence and still is. And in fact, she did her MA when I was doing my 10th.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, since I was not very serious in my studies, the only way for her to teach me to be serious was to give me a challenge that your mother will succeed or you will succeed.
Oh. So that's actually a challenge for the mother to study by herself, pursue her studies while
So
the
obviously,
child is
when
also.
I see her study, मेरे दिल में डर पैदा हो जाता था
कि मम्मा के नंबर ज्यादा ना आ जाए. Absolutely.
Looking back, it looks so silly, but then that was the best step she took, so as to teach me that you see how serious in life you should be and about whatever you are focusing on. So, and of course, बचपना भी था. What is this? Mother is studying, and then I am forced to study.
I know, and still you continued that. So absolutely, I am sure you know how you started your journey from a young lady officer to what you are presently pursuing. It's a mark. I'll not say it's a difference, but of course, a pedestal that you have every time taken ahead. So that's a wonderful and very inspiring to know. I was going through your bio, and then well, I realized that. You are absolutely an intellect person. That's why you are here with us. And so, talking about your profession that you're presently pursuing, could you please enlighten us on the Indian government measures in disaster management, as that is your forte presently, and what
Yeah.
are the various Indian disasters?
Yeah. If you see our history of disasters in India, we have never learned from the previous disasters. We have this, the
Absolutely.
government still till date, or recent till 2005, till we became in the United Nations Development Program, 2015 Millennium Goals, or we call them Sustainable Development Goals. Till that period, we didn't have a disaster management policy even. The country didn't have a DM policy even. It was like भगवान भरोसे हो गया, compensation दे दिया and बात खत्म. But उसका analysis, उसका risk factors, then it is studies. Next time ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. Nothing would take place. Be it Latur, be it उससे भी पहले के किल्लारी लातूर. There were so many.
So many
The same. And
incidents
we
that.
never, yeah, the government's intervention was only to give compensation and then carry on. But and we had a lot of dependency on military. कि हादसा हो गया, फौज को बुला दो. मतलब फौज सब कुछ करेगी, तो बाकी लोग क्या करेंगे?
बाकी लोग क्या करेंगे? Very
So
true.
to reduce the dependency of the military armed forces during disasters, civil defense is a government organization wherein 10% is paid staff and 90% is citizenry. Our job is to train the citizens till the last person, even from Gram Panchayat level. There is no age bar as to what should be their age and all, but he or she should be 18 years of age and Indian and of sound mind and physical fitness. Even a
Okay.
fourth standard person can be a civil defense volunteer.
Okay.
In case if there is an overflowing nala, and you make a person stand there with an umbrella and a red flag and say, tell him that don't allow people to cross this. So government ka kaam ban gaya.
Absolutely.
So we don't need very highly educated people.
Educated, yes.
If
But we need
educated people
dedicated
do-
volunteers.
Yes, we need volunteers. What happens is when a disaster occurs, the first golden hour period is wasted. Only in government will come with its resources, and then the casualty or the victim will be taken. So the most of the time they will lose lives or limbs. So to avoid that, if a citizen is trained, he can do the first response. He can become a first responder in that area. And the
Absolutely.
government compensates him also by making him a volunteer, by giving him an I-card, by training him in first aid, in firefighting. So there are things where people can become volunteers and come to the aid of the government.
Government.
Yeah. And the government's burden reduces. Like if you see in a city like Mumbai, a fire tender going through a traffic, so much of traffic, or so closely compact building and roads, it takes time to reach. So
Absolutely.
if the citizens are trained in that locality, they come forward and help in mitigating the incident, and our job is reduced. So that is where we step in. We give warnings, we evacuate people, we do demonstrations, mock drills, we have training programs in with Anganwadis in schools, colleges, corporates, in government sector. you name it, we are there to do the awareness program, public awareness programs on various disasters. And in return, we expect that once we have trained the citizen, he or she should be available whenever the government requires their help.
Absolutely. So I'm sure it's I think, a very challenging, task, or you can say a program that the disaster management team undergoes when any kind of a calamity hits the,
Yeah.
nature it's been in. So what are the rules and regulations of disasters? Like anything that we have to follow that?
Yeah, we follow the Civil Defense Act came into force in 1968. Till that level, we were only for armed conflicts. This Civil Defense Act was only for wherever, like, we had enemy nations attacking us by form of air raids or bombing or anything like that. So that time the civil defense would come into force. The citizens would form their own groups and
Okay.
conduct blackout measures so that we are not seen by the during the air raids, or if bombings have taken place, then how to give first aid. It was to help the armed forces.
Absolutely.
But over a period of time, it was researched and it came to light that why only to armed conflicts? Why not for natural disasters and man-made disasters? So in
Absolutely.
2005, the Disaster Management Act came into force, and we had to change our adapt to the new act, wherein uh, Disaster Management Act called Act of 2005 came into force. And this was at three levels. One was at district level disaster management, state level disaster management, and national level disaster management.
Okay.
Tsunami was tsunami, Kerala floods, the Odisha floods.
Odisha.
These were all national level disasters. Whereas recent 2019 Kolhapur floods, that was
Yes.
restricted to state level.
State level.
And in 2018, a bus fell down in Ambenali Ghat, which was about 700 feet.
The
That was
casualties
a
was
district, yes.
Yes.
It was carrying 32 agricultural faculty. So that was restricted to a district disaster. I have participated in all these disasters. In Ambenali Ghat, we had once the bus has fallen down, there was no way the people could come out. So they died of hemorrhage. So by the time that 1 hour, golden hour, their blood just leaked out.
Very devastating scene.
You will have only dead bodies. All we could do is get some group of trekkers and rappellers, go down and put them in a net and get the bodies out. The operation took about 9 to 10 hours. We came to know at 1 o'clock. It happened at 11 o'clock in the morning. And by the time my team went to Ambenali Ghat, it was 5 o'clock. They started. NDRF and all came much later with their sophisticated equipments. We don't have sophisticated equipments. All we have is whatever is available at that particular area. Those limited resources we modify and try to help in disasters. In Kolhapur, I was the only female officer to go with a 62 group of men. My boss said, "Will you go?" I said, "Yes, why not? I'll go. You will not be scared." I said, "Why should I?" In the Navy, there's nothing called getting scared. And I was on board Jyoti for good 18 months. I was the only woman on board the ship because Madam had her house, so she could go home.
Absolutely.
So, but this was different. Where are you going to stay? It's Kolhapur area, in a flood area. There is no way where you can find any place to rest. So leave alone. I said that you don't worry. We will.
Absolutely many challenges involved. But you being
when I went there.
Sorry to cut in. You being a true soldier, carry your
operations. Madam, आप आएंगे हमारे साथ. I could understand that they had apprehensions. They have never seen a lady officer with them, a lady going for such kind of thing. I said, you don't worry. You don't think me as a woman. You think me as an officer, and your mind will change. And when I went there, the collector said the Navy is sending some boats. I said, the Navy is sending some boats? Wow. So I just contacted the Navy.
That's a
I asked, who is
family.
the officer in charge? Who is the officer in charge? When I got to know the name, I just took the mobile number from the authorities, called him up. I said, sir, I'm an ex-service officer and I'm now in Maharashtra government and I need your help here. If you can help me out. He says, ma'am, I have got 8 Gemini boats. मेरे छाती में लड्डू फूट रहे थे.
Absolutely.
And 8 boats and along with the clearance divers. I said, wow. And the master chief who was heading that clearance divers team, I had met him on board Jyoti. So it was like Haryanvi touch and
it was back
my
to
guys,
lane.
Yeah, and my civilian guys were like, madam boat life, madam divers life, madam हम जाएंगे, तो क्यों नहीं जाओगे? अभी क्या प्रॉब्लम है? अभी तो आपको बोट भी मिला है. अब तो प्रॉब्लम ये है कि उनको स्विमिंग नहीं आती है ना.
So, madam ने सब कुछ empower किया and got everything on board for them.
Yeah, and then we were in news in the limelight. We were at Prime TV in the evening. Of course, we didn't know about that.
Yes.
We came to know later on. And civil defense of Maharashtra was like collaborated with the Indian Navy and they are working. And all the villagers were giving us blessings because they got the relief materials. They hadn't even had medicines.
See, at that time, you were the only hope for them, na? For the localites. You were the only hope there, when people see you there.
And Air Force also sent its helicopter with the relief materials. So since I had the manpower, I told them, "Tum sab nikal ke wo school mein rakhwa do." Even the CEO of that area, he was a young, just 15 days prior to those floods, he was appointed there. And he was a young fellow, newly appointed, and he had some, he was also having fever because for last 2 days he was on a 2nd floor terrace. Water was everywhere. All his offices were underwater. So he was very happy that somebody has come to aid him, and otherwise he would have been publicly beaten up also.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it was a way of telling कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा. And not only I am an ex-service officer, but I am now from the government of Maharashtra. We are here to bridge the gap. We are here to help you out. The Air Force is here with all the supplies, and my men will help you in stocking the piles. Your only job is to distribute to the right people, because I don't know who are those right people.
Yeah, it should go to the right people. That is the
just tell me,
the mission altogether.
Even देने का काम भी our will do it. And he was very nice. Even the collector, even the tehsildar, they were all very nice. They made a list of saying whom all should be given, who are the actual village people. So you have to be very careful that your relief materials go to the right
to the right. See, that is actually the mission altogether, that it should reach to the right person, the needy at that hour, and if that is not done, the purpose is not solved. So absolutely. No, while you were telling all this, I'm really getting those goosebumps, how you could have handled
last
all
year
that.
Also my team did a wonderful job. The entire pandemic and Nisarga cyclone, I have a very small minuscule team, but they really they didn't say कि हमको corona हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा. I said you are in emergency services, so for you there is no 50% staff on duty or 50% is taking on this. And the collector, Mrs. Nidhi Chaudhary, she also gave me a free hand to help her in a pandemic. In fact, all the corporates, most of the corporates, NGOs, citizen groups, volunteers, they came forward and helped us in relief camps, setting up the migrants relief camps, and writing migrants are okay in knowing what to do on a mobile, but if you tell them, fill in your particulars in that website, they can't do it.
Absolutely.
Miss ho jayega, kuch ho jayega. So this all was done by my team, putting their age and all, and making their filling up their forms and submitting it to the railway.
Absolutely, there's a lot
All
of
this work was done.
logistics involved. There are a lot of things which are
Yes.
involved, and you
We
need
even
a
helped
team to
the
be
district
executed.
administration set up a 40-bed ICU ward for isolation and a 60-bed isolation ward, normal wards, with the help of corporate CSR funds.
Funds, okay.
So it was just by way of my work, you can say, or my ex-serviceman status, has helped people have a trust on me that our CSR funds will be rightly utilized.
And also, I want to add one more thing. And Commander Corey, you maybe your go-getter attitude. That, of course, when you
You
have
can
that
say
kind of,
many people call me stubborn. My daughters also call me Ziddi.
so I'm giving a better name, go-getter. So
Yeah, it's very nice, better name, yes.
absolutely. So continuing with the same discussion, so could you please tell what is the civil defense, and what is the role of civil defense in the structure of disaster management levels?
Of civil defense role.
Yeah.
Civil defense role per se, I would put it as to minimize loss of lives and property, minimize loss of industrial production, like industrial production, business continuity should be there. As of now,
Okay.
just because an incident has happened, like now this corona has happened, lockdown is not a solution.
Solution.
Money also should be generated, economy should come. I mean, that's how the money will roll. So, and normalize the conditions of the incident as soon as possible. And fourth is to boost the morale of the public. This is what civil defense organization does. What happens is when the public's morale is low, you can have enemy nations looking at you. That is the most vulnerable time when your enemies will start pressurizing you,
taking advantage of the
going in
situation.
for
Yes.
into bad situations. Yes, so that is what civil defense during disaster management does, or for that matter, that is the ethos of the organization, the value of the organization, the goal or the aims of the organization.
Thank you so much, Commander Corey. I mean, you really gave an insight for people. This is, and again, as I mentioned, it is a women's special episode. So, definitely you're inspiring the youth, the girls, and many young, the young generation. And also, a disaster management is a very good career, I feel, for the,
Yes.
youngsters to opt as well. So,
Yeah, there are many MBAs also in that.
yes, I really want to talk a lot with you today, but being the time is the constraint presently. So I would like to ask, what would you like to tell the young generation, especially the girls, the ladies, the young girls? What are the tips that you want to give them to inspire them or to motivate them?
See, there is nothing for us girls to stop unless and until we want to stop ourselves. So the moment you say, I want to stop, then you stop. Moment you say, I want to focus on this, I want to be going from point A to point B, no person, no force in the world will stop you in doing that. I remember when my days only, when my father expired, there was a lot of pressure on my mother to get me married. It could have been my maternal uncle, it could have been anybody from outside also. There was not, and I was like, you give me 2 years, if I don't make myself anything, then definitely I'll go by your word. So this thing to the today's generation is, you can also find your own path, make your own path. Nobody can guide you in that, but yes, you can take lessons, or you can take inspiration from people around and pave your own way.
Absolutely, it's a very important thing that you have brought in today's generation, that we need to be focused. Absolutely, time is, if the time is gone, you can't decide anything, and at times our destiny or whatever we say, but to be focused, and that's how you can inspire youth. Thank you so much, Commander Corey. It was beautiful talking to you. I wish I could talk more on the subject. I want to just say something, that there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. And you truly
Absolutely.
deserve every bit of appreciation for that. No, and
Thank you so
it's
much.
my pleasure. And I thank once again, and all the very best to all the noble endeavor that you're, doing for the nation building. And we are absolutely grateful to the citizens who involve themselves selflessly for the nation building. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
E4G Talks is brought to you by ISECI, Indian Ex-Defence Service Employees Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Thanks to its vast veteran network and global and pan-India associates, ISECI can carry out various commerce facilitations and CSR projects across India and the world. Some of ISECI's core capability areas are Skill India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, any ex-serviceman welfare or job program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan related projects, telemedicine and healthcare training and job scheme, Save Water scheme, defense industry SME, MSME cluster and hub development, maritime training and inland water training with job facilitation, Canada study, job and permanent residency opportunity, e-commerce, Andaman and Nicobar commerce opportunities. ISECI's global reach includes countries like Indonesia, Slovakia, Canada, Nepal, Singapore, Rwanda, USA, UK. Above all, it is ISECI's effort to create a veterans brand made by the veterans, for the veterans and made up of the veterans. Every Indian's support is invaluable in this journey. ISECI is a registered society for ex-servicemen's welfare and envisions that every veteran should be a part of India's economic growth story. It is the aim of ISECI to create an enabling commerce platform that will empower and synergize the veterans' talent pool. This is possible only with the support of entrepreneurs, businesses and consultants from civil society. All proceeds, if any, are utilized for the welfare of ex-servicemen and for public charity.